What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another pregame edition of SSPN Live. I think the last pregame stream we did, we did a Thunder pregame stream. We did that one. But the inaugural pregame stream, Ethan, was actually before the last Kings game that we also played on the road. That was a 9 o'clock tip. So yeah, a little bit of deja vu here. I do not, unfortunately, Ethan, I'm not wording that in the most clean way there, but what I'm about to say is, unfortunately, I do not think that this game will be as competitive as the last one because, Ethan, I'm going to give you a little surprise here. We're going to start off with this right here. And if you're listening on podcast, what is showing up on the screen right now is the Associated Press's article stating that Spurs Victor Wembanyama is out versus the Kings due to a sprained ankle. So I'm just going to read this for you guys just to start off the show and give you all the info on this that is kind of out there. So the San Antonio Spurs have ruled rookie Victor Wembanyama out of their game against the Sacramento Kings on Thursday night because of a sprained right ankle. Wembanyama appeared to roll the ankle in the second quarter of San Antonio's game at Houston on Tuesday. He was subbed out less than 2 minutes later, then returned to start the third quarter and played almost all of the second half. So I'm going to stop right there, Ethan, because I did listen to your solo post game. Y'all definitely go check that out if you haven't, and I appreciate you for doing that, my guy. And it was really fun to listen to on the way home. But what were your thoughts about this when you were watching the game live and saw this?
He looked gimpy after that. He went to the locker room immediately following that injury, but he came back and he looked pretty much fine. It's hard to judge because he wasn't playing particularly well before or after the injury. So if he was in pain or if it was affecting his game, it didn't show. But I think it's a good sign that he was able to play on it, even if it was hurting him a little bit for 2 whole quarters. This kind of sounds like the Spurs being cautious, and the season's pretty much over at this point anyway. So let's just make sure he's fully recovered before we throw him back out there.
Yeah, and that kind of leads immediately to the next sentence right here. It will be the 7th game missed by Wembanyama this season. He started 56 of the Spurs' first 62 contests. We talked about this kind of in our midseason breakdown, Ethan, but this is once again just of where we're at in the season. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year that he just played 56 games, I would have been very happy. And we talked about that, like I just alluded to in the midseason breakdown. And this is just another example about how he's been way more durable and has adjusted to, almost like doubling the amount of games, even though, the season is over the same period of time. Like I said, I think it's under 50 that they play in the French league. So that would be around 40. And of course there's 82 in an NBA season. So with, a ton of more games added to his workload, the fact that, we've had his little injuries. This is only his 7th game that he's missed here in March, as we're winding down to the last month of the season. Me and you were very happily a little wrong on that. And we'll see what happens with some other games. Maybe they'll hold him out a little bit more, kind of like with what you just alluded to, saying that, it is, we know what the season's going to be. And if we sit him, then that'll kind of help our draft odds too. So kind of what are your thoughts on just, his durability so far this year?
I have been very happy with his durability, Jude. I think he has embraced the physicality of the league. And really, other than that 45-point game from Alperen Şengün, and then, of course, the 70-point game from Joel Embiid, no one else has really out-physicaled him. He's been able to adjust and use his length to capitalize in that regard. And also, other than like a 5-game stretch where it looked like maybe that fatigue was hitting him, he's been on an upward tick the entire time. I think he had a few weeks ago a small dip where he looked fatigued. He looked like, okay, he's hitting his rookie wall. But then after that, he exploded. And we had those back-to-back wins where he was sensational. And we were like, okay, I guess that was just a small little bump in the road, and he's back to normal state of play. So I've been nothing but pleased with his performance and how he's adjusted to not only the number of games, but the physicality and strength of other bigs in the league.
Yeah, I just had to highlight that there because as much as it's as simple as saying it's only the 7th game he's missed this year and you expect a number 1 pick to play most of the games, just because of the way the French league was set up, his body being unlike anything we've ever seen before. When we did all of these preseason videos talking about his trainer and, him rolling on tennis balls, all the workouts that they showed last year before the G League Ignite games that he played against Scoot Henderson. And like I said earlier, the fact that they brought on that same trainer literally on the Spurs staff now, it's a testament to what they're doing for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's working. Clearly,
You,
it's working.
you got a friend in the background there. Did you
Yes,
notice
I
that?
do. He bumped his way into my room just now. This
He
is the
invaded.
mysterious Spurs dog, the silver and black dog.
I love it. But just to finish up this article, Wembanyama, the number 1 pick in last year's draft, and the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year honors this year, is averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and a league-leading 3.5 blocked shots per game. Another crazy stat. No player has averaged at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks in a full season since Shaq in 1999-2000.
Yeah, and I saw a stat earlier today. I don't have it in front of me, but he has more blocks and more steals cumulatively than Anthony Davis and Rudy Gobert. Obviously on a losing record, but his name is slowly creeping into that Defensive Player of the Year candidacy. I think he'll definitely be nominated. I don't know if he'll win, but he's definitely deserving of being in that top 3.
We talked about that. I have a couple friends that aren't Spurs fans, and a lot of them do think he should win Defensive Player of the Year. But like you said in the last episode, regardless of whether he should or not, the record is going to hurt that, at some point. And maybe he does end up winning it, and they just want to start giving him these awards quickly and start making him this star, that the league can make tons of money off of. And I hate to put it that way, but that's is the truth of that being an angle, to a certain extent. So, we'll see what happens with the voting. I don't know exactly who votes on it. I'm sure it might be a mix of the players and the media. I know that's how some other voting works. But I think the record will hurt him. So I'm not banking on that, kind of like you said last episode. But last thing here, Ethan, no rookie in NBA history has ended a season with those numbers either.
He's definitely making his impact felt early, Jude.
Absolutely. So even though that's just a short little write up there, Ethan, there was just some good info, and some here. Look, in when the Spurs here, let's pull up their schedule, or not their schedule, their record, right? 13-49, another very rough season. We might even end up losing more games than we did last season. That's another thing that people are talking about. It may even end up being the worst record in franchise history, Ethan. 20 wins is what the Spurs need. They need 7 more wins to tie the worst record in franchise history. And it doesn't really seem like they're going to get there. I mean, maybe they will. We'll see. But obviously, with him out in this one, that doesn't help their chances that much in that argument and battle, if you will, Ethan, here at the end of the year.
No, we've clearly seen when he's not on the floor, it is a different team that shows up for the Spurs.
Yeah. And so with all of that in mind, that's why I wanted to read those numbers there, because it's the little things that can give glimpses into very bright rainbow futures, Ethan, instead of dark, dormant 13-49 records. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Like a phoenix, Jude, we will rise from the ashes.
Exactly, Ethan. But let's talk about this game tonight with Victor being out. And speaking of Victor, he's in the comments, Ethan. And
always a big fan of SSPN.
He is. And for those of you watching online, you just saw Ethan go small again, and I don't know why the default is getting reset to that, but I picked you back up there, buddy.
Thank you.
But here in the comments, Victor says Spurs haven't won a game without Wemby this season. 0-6. Can we beat the Kings? If Collins turns into Timmy, we have a chance. Now, you know what is interesting about him bringing up Zach is Zach has had his best games this year against the Kings.
Yes, he has.
There's going to be that Gonzaga matchup tonight against Sabonis. I obviously think that Sabonis will get the better of him overall. But if Zach can play, anything similar to like the 22-8 game, just close to that, even if he could get like 16 and 7 or something like that. That would be enough. Well, not enough to match the end result of the game, but that would be something that I would be satisfied with in a matchup, like Sabonis, with the way that the season has gone for Zach. But the other thing that we'll pay attention to here in tonight's game, Ethan, is most likely our boy Dom Barlo will probably get some full rotation minutes tonight, which I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. I think everyone is now, Jude. I think most people have jumped on the bandwagon that you started. You are the initiator of the Dom Barlow hype. Um, but to speak about Zach for a second, defensively, it's wraps. There's no way in hell he's going to be able to guard or slow down Sabonis. So he needs to have a good offensive game as a scorer. I think we'll probably look to get him going early in the post, get a couple easy hook shots, get underneath the rim, easy putback layups, just to regain his confidence. And then from there, maybe he'll move away to the mid post, start making passes that we know he's capable of. And really, it all hangs on his ability to hit the three. If he can hit a couple threes and see those first couple knocked down, then he's going to have a good night. If he's breaking them, it's going to be rough pickings from Zach Collins. But Dominic Barlow, I think, is going to have a pretty solid impact for us coming off the bench, Jude. I think his high motor, we've talked about it at length, his strength, his ability to fight for extra possessions, and just mess things up for the other team, and then run the lane and push the pace in transition. Um, those are his greatest strengths. So if we can play on that, catch Sacramento slipping, maybe he's not on their scouting report because they just haven't heard about him. Maybe he can do some great things for us.
Yeah. And also it'll be his first minutes like on an actual contract. Now,
True.
there is a big asterisk to this, Ethan, that I texted you about because there is a chance that we just play Mamu. I really don't think that that's going to happen, but I don't think it's also, I think there's like a 5% chance of it happening. And if that happened, I'm actually not going to be that mad at that either. Like I said, I seriously doubt that, especially since we just brought Barlow up. But if that does happen, with the way that Mamu has been playing in his past couple games, I would still be excited to see. I would just be excited to see what he could do out there as well. But I don't think that that's as likely.
I think we'll probably see Don Barlow over Mamu, but they might play together. You never really know. Pop has always been the one to change up the lineups at random times and give other guys, excuse me, opportunities, especially when there are injuries like Wemby.
Or if Barlow just goes out there and has a stinker, that's another way that Mamu could get in the game as well.
Absolutely.
But Ethan, the other thing that I noticed here, we're looking at the regular season series, and both of these games had Wemby in them. But both of the Spurs' losses to the Kings are by 5 points and 9 points. So both single-digit losses. The Spurs have actually been able to play the Kings, decently, much better than a lot of other Western Conference playoff teams. The last pregame stream we did with the Thunder, this did not look as pretty.
Yep.
And obviously the Thunder at a little bit of a different level than the Kings, but the Kings are still 35 and 26,
Yeah.
fighting for that in that play-in race right now. I'm not exactly sure where they are in the standings just because it kind of changes from day to day in the West. But still, maybe a little bit of hope, but still with Wemby being out, there could be a chance that this could be their first blowout. And also, king of the fourth quarter, De'Aaron Fox is coming off a 44-point performance to beat the Lakers in Staples, or the Crypto.com arena.
If I'm not mistaken, Jude, and feel free to click on it and prove me wrong, but I'm almost positive Wemby did not play that first game.
I think you're right. Yes,
Zach
you
Collins was
are
our best
right.
player in this game because this was coming off of a bad stretch for him, and he had this game. And I remember vividly talking about he's back. Like, this is what Zach Collins is capable of at his best. And yep, 28 points on plus 19, 8 boards, 5 assists on efficient shooting. I remember watching this game because I was at a restaurant and they had it on, and I couldn't believe they had it on in Dallas. But I think you're
Well, there
correct.
is Victor.
Did he play?
Yeah, because this is when we were still playing Victor
Oh,
at
we're
the
playing him
4.
at 4 and 5. That's what
I,
it was.
I completely believed you at first too, and I had it on the
Dang.
screen and I didn't even notice. And the reason I didn't notice, Ethan, not to interrupt you, but you didn't hear the Burger King music, right?
No, I did not.
Yes, because I turned off the share audio tab, but I still got it in my headphones. Like it just like glitched in here. So the entire time you were talking, I was just hearing like whopper, whopper. And I was doing my best to
You did a
listen
great job.
through you, bro. And I actually did kind of hear what you had to say. But yeah, this was when he was still at the 4. But dang, I really thought this game too that he was out, because I was like, oh no, that's when Zach went off. And if Zach went off, that's because he got more touches, right? But
Mhm.
also, this was if I can math here, Spurs were 3-9, the 12th game of the season also. So
Mm. Dang, I was really confident in that take, but I was wrong. It was just the weird 4-5 combo that we had played for the first couple months of the season. But I believe you are correct in saying De'Aaron Fox went crazy in this game. And I think he was down the stretch where he really ran away with it. That's why they won by 9. Yeah, they won 34-26 in that fourth quarter. So that's the
yeah,
key.
he had 43 there. So that is what it is. But and like he just did against the Lakers in their last game. So it's not going to be easy. Like Victor pointed out in the comments earlier, the Spurs have not won a single game this year, Ethan. It keeps doing this. I can't believe this. Without Victor Wembanyama. So as Too Clutch Corey says, Devin's got to go off. That's really where it does need to start, just to kind of break down this game a little bit, other than just touching on like Zach and Barlo in Wemby's absence. We're going to need big games from Keldon, big game from Devin, big
Hmm.
game from Jeremy. Those are the first 3 names that I really think about. Trey could be another guy, that could step up a little bit, but his job's going to be more facilitating. And in the absence of Wemby's scoring ability, like Corey said, it really starts with Devin, but we're going to need, like, this is a Keldon game where Keldon's got to have 20 for us to have a chance.
1,000% agreed because Sabonis is a great player, but he's not exactly a rim protector. He's a smart defender, but he's not a rim protector. And I don't know who their center is coming off the bench. Do you happen to know that information off the top of your
Yeah,
head?
so I looked that up earlier today because I had the exact same thought. So I'm not exact. I think they play Trey Lyles there,
At the
but
5.
they also have JaVale McGee
Mm,
and Alex Len. Um,
okay.
and so it's interesting you bring that up because that's going to be Barlow's matchup, most
Mhm,
likely. And even if it's Mamu and Barlow are very similar sized. So hopefully it's Trey Lyles, because I think Mamu or Dom would match up more with Trey, or would match up better with Trey Lyles. But also, I don't think that Alex Len or JaVale McGee is like, that's not like the end of the world. Also,
mhm.
like there could be a lot worse bench bigs that these guys, that Barlow or Dom, or excuse me, Barlow or Dom, Mamu or Barlow would have. He's just on my mind.
Mhm. Always.
Always. Um, could have to match up with, other than JaVale McGee, Alex Len, or Trey Lyles. But I'm pretty sure it's Trey Lyles is what they do. That's what
Okay.
sticks out to my mind from the last game. And since we're talking about it, Ethan, I'll go pull up the box score here.
What I was going to get to is kind of in
Yes,
conjunction with
of
what you said
course.
about Keldon. Regardless of who they play, whether that be JaVale or Trey or Alex Len, I would call this team maybe a slightly weaker interior defensive team, at least in
Hmm.
comparison with their perimeter defenders. I would put their perimeter defenders at a higher echelon than their inside D. So we're going to need Keldon Johnson, we're going to need Devin Vassell, all these guys to get downhill, attack the rim, try and draw fouls, maybe get Sabonis in foul trouble. It makes him a lot more one-dimensional when Sabonis can't be as aggressive as he wants to be.
Burger King did it to me again, Ethan.
Mm.
But the bottom line is that Trey Lyles played 15 minutes and Alex Len played 14 minutes in the last game. Um, I wish I could respond to what you said.
All I said was they might be slightly weaker team on the inside compared to their perimeter defense. So we should attack downhill, get to the rim, try and draw fouls. If we can get Sabonis in foul trouble, then they become a lot more one-dimensional if he's not as aggressive as he normally is.
Yes. Another thing, just talking about the bench as well. If you can get Barlow in rhythm, I know
Mm,
not to just make it all about Barlow, but seriously, we saw flashes of Devin and him in the 2-man game when he was playing during Zach Collins' injury. Just if like, give him the mid-range jumper. That's what I'm saying. Because if he can start to make them pay, maybe he'll miss the first shot, but don't ditch it. Don't
no.
ditch it, because he can bounce back. We've seen that in other games. And if he can start keeping them honest, with the little put shots, because they're going to leave him open.
Hmm.
That's what's going to happen. And so mainly the mid-range jumpers is kind of what I'm alluding to here. And then I think you'll see him fighting on the offensive glass as well, just because we've already seen that. But yeah, if give him the mid range jumpers in the pick and pops, or even if he's just kind of spacing, because if they start to make him, if he can start to make them pay and execute in those situations, that'll open things up for the rest of the bench's offense.
1,000%. I don't disagree with you. But just to go with somebody different, I think someone who's also going to be vital to this game is Malachi Branham. He's had a couple games in a row where he's played very, very well. Victor's not here. You're going to be probably the sixth man coming off the bench tonight. Maybe in the starting lineup. I don't think so. I think they'll continue to bring him in off the bench. He needs to get his scoring going quickly, get to his spots, find his confidence, get in rhythm, and use Barlo. Barlo's a great screener for him. Use
Yes.
him in the pick and roll, similar to what you said about Devin and Barlo, and see how that matchup works for us.
Yeah, and I think, with the way that Malachi's been playing, he can also play off the ball because of the
Mm-hmm.
Blake and Dom connection that they have,
True.
in their pick and roll and pick and pop situations with all of the time that they've spent together in Austin. Um, but Malachi really, like you said, obviously we need a big game from Keldon, but we're going to need Malachi to continue to do what he's been doing to have a chance in this game as well. And the stat that we talked about earlier with the Spurs being 0-6, in the 6 games Wemby's played, I'm sure Pop's telling them that,
Mm-hmm.
like that, come out with fire, come out like you want to prove that stat wrong. And the Kings are a better team than us, bottom line. We're not trying to argue that whatsoever. But because of both of those losses being single digits, that really is a different story than a lot of the other games that the Spurs have played, whenever it comes to Western Conference playoff teams. Like, I know we had one close game against the Timberwolves, but then in the next one, it wasn't as close.
Mm-hmm.
So that should give the guys some confidence as well. And like I said, I was thinking about Blake I hate to say like everybody has to have a good game, but that kind of is the situation when you're a 13-49 team going up against a 35-26 team in the West. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about Malachi and Blake when you said that as well, but I still think that we're going to stagger those minutes a little bit to kind of get the Dom and Devin 2-man game going, just because we've seen it before. But really, the main bench scorer, as much as you want it to be Keldon, we've seen Keldon facilitate a little bit, and we'll probably need his help on the boards a little bit more tonight
Mm-hmm.
than we would need his scoring ability. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he could have like a 14-6-6 game or something like that, that would probably be more beneficial if Malachi ends up getting 18. This is obviously very wishful thinking, but we got to talk about, some avenues to victory in a game like this without Victor. And that's the type of stuff that you're going to need.
I think for Keldon, we need to post him up early. We've talked about it happening late in games, and we saw it last time we played the Kings where he posted up Trey Lyles and took him straight to the basket. If he can do that and facilitate, like you're saying, but either way, he needs to get downhill and attack the rim to either create shots for himself that are easy or open up shots for guys like Malachi or a dump off for Dom.
Yeah. In the starting lineup, Ethan, I'm thinking, I know I already mentioned Jeremy a little bit, but we've seen him have success against the Kings in the past. Obviously, everybody remembers the Sabonis dunk from last season.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen him have some games recently where he's been able to go for 20 points and 10 rebounds. I'm thinking mainly about the OKC game when I'm saying that. But we're going to need that type of game from him. We're going to need him to be aggressive, but we're also going to need him to be smart, which has basically been the story with Jeremy all year. And I think we have progressively seen him get get more smart. But tonight, like, we're actually going to need him to force his offense a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that's something that we've kind of been telling him not to do, but in Wemby's absence, we got to make up for these points. And he is someone who has the ability to do that, especially when you talk about, Sabonis in the starting lineup and Keegan Murray. That's much more of a much better defense on the interior. That's a much tougher matchup than the guys on the bench, like you were talking
Mm-hmm.
about. But as you said, in comparison to a lot of teams in the rest of the West, you got to find some weakness in this Kings team. And I think that the interior is where we'd be able to take advantage. Not as much necessarily with Zach. And while I would say that, well, I don't know Keegan Murray's like stats off the top of my head, but I do know he's a very solid player for Sacramento. But I also think that it's a matchup where Jeremy has the ability to go for a game like that. And that's not to say that he's
Mhm.
going to completely slow Keegan Murray down. And that's not to say that I don't think Keegan Murray is a very good player himself. But I do think that it's not. It's kind of like the point I was making with Barlo earlier. Like there could be a lot worse matchups for Jeremy out there.
Yeah, for sure. And not to make this narrative driven for Jeremy, but there is like a certain story element to this. Keegan Murray was a power forward taken fourth overall. In that same draft, we took Jeremy
Mm-hmm.
Sohan, a power forward, at, what was it, a nine?
Yep.
At nine overall. So there has to be an emotional element to this for both of those guys to go out there and want to compete and prove that they're the better power forward of that draft class. I think right now it's Keegan Murray, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying Jeremy's mindset is probably similar to that.
Yes, absolutely. Go prove them wrong for sure. And that's kind of just another thing that like Pop can that adds to like the narrative, like you were saying, of the Spurs not being able to win a game without Victor.
For sure.
Um, but our guy July 26th says, "How many games do y'all believe our alien will be out?" I almost just said Wemby because I read that and now I associate it with him. But what are
Mm.
your thoughts on that, Ethan?
I honestly couldn't tell you, man. It'll come down to what Pop and the front office think is warranted. He will want to come back sooner rather than later because that's just who he is. But knowing the Spurs, they will slow him down as much as they possibly can and really milk this whole sprained ankle thing for as much as it's worth. So I can see him being out for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I really, I couldn't tell you. I'd be guessing. I'd be lying to you if I said anything.
Well, I saw a tweet earlier today, Ethan, from Tom Orsborn, one of the San Antonio News Express writers, and it might have not been him, but it was one of them. It was Jeff
Mm.
McDonald, it was Tom Orsborn, or it was Mike Finger. It was one of those guys. And they said that they could expect him to be back for the Golden State game, actually.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
so, I mean, but with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if they held him out for another game just because draft odds. You know what I mean? Like if they can milk it as much as they want to, but the thing is Victor wants to play.
Well, he
Um,
wants to get to 65 games.
and I also don't know if he's played. I'll have to check, but I don't know if we've played in Golden State yet. So
Oh, I don't know.
that would be, as much that's not necessarily like the Lakers arena, but that's still like a really cool environment that I'm sure Wemby would want to go to. And then that's like the brand new arena, the Chase Center in San Francisco as well.
Have we played them since we played them in the Alamo Dome?
That's what I'm about to go check here, Ethan. Before we wrap up, I'll read, there's like a little preview that ESPN does for the game as well that has some stats that we can read to kind of, like I said, to kind of wrap it up. But let me see if we've even, because like for some reason I don't remember playing them this year. Okay, we played them. We have is the answer, and we played them very early in the season, and we played them in the Chase Center, Ethan, in the in-season tournament. I totally forgot
That's
about
right.
this, and Victor did play. So this would not be his first time, but we are playing them in a back-to-back because we've only played them once.
Hmm. All right, then. That answers that question.
Let me pull up this preview here again, Ethan, and then we will wrap the show up with this. Oh, I appreciate it. Michael in the chat, he says cool hats.
That's my boss.
Love it. Love it. July 26th also says he needs 9 more games to qualify for the award. So there's that. I think that's what you were alluding to.
Mm.
And then M Easy says, I need Barlo to get a heavy dose of minutes tonight. We definitely hope for that. But let's read this bottom line here, Ethan. Sacramento faces the San Antonio Spurs after De'Aaron Fox scored 44 points in the Sacramento Kings 130 to 120 victory over the Los Angeles Lakers, like we talked about earlier. The Kings are 24-16 in the West. Sacramento is 9th. So despite being 35-26, Ethan, they're 9th in the conference. That shows you, we've been talking about how the league is more stacked, Ethan. That is a pure example right there. Now to the Spurs. Well, actually, they're 9th in the Western Conference with 13.6 fast break points. So I read that wrong. They're not 9th in the conference. That makes sense. But they are in the play-in, right? That they're around that range.
I'm about to look for us.
Yeah, I was about to do the same thing.
They're 7th, so yes.
Yeah, okay, good. They're not ninth. I was about to that kind of seemed a little insane when I first read it.
They're
But
2 games out of 5th, though, so they're, like, right there,
it's
and
every
they're
game.
1 game away from 10th. Like,
So
it's
they
they're
could be
tight.
ninth. Like
Yeah.
that's the West is so crazy with like the difference in like games back between like the 4 and 10 seeds. It's like it's like 4 or 6 games or something. It's like somewhere in that range. Um, but the Spurs are 8-27 in Western Conference play. San Antonio has a 6-30 record against opponents over 500. 0-6 without Victor. We can throw that in there too. The Kings average 118 points per game, 2 fewer than the Spurs allow. The Spurs average 12 and a half made 3-pointers this season, but basically 1 less fewer than the makes per game that the Kings allow. I don't even know what those stats mean, Ethan, and I'm reading them. But I was just trying to bring up something. Fox is shooting 47%. He's averaging 27 points. Sabonis is averaging 20 points basically over the last 10 games. Devin's at 19 points and 4 assists. And this is actually an interesting stat. This is why I pulled this up, Ethan. Malachi Branham averaging 2 made 3-pointers over the last 10 games. And that could be huge with the point that you talked about with his scoring ability. We want him to get in the pick and roll with Dom because I think that would be effective as well, just to get his game going. And you don't want to just force him to be a spot up shooter. But with him shooting better from the perimeter, that allows him to play off of Blake and Dom with their chemistry, like I alluded to earlier. But in the last 10 games, the Kings are 5-5. The Spurs are 3-7. And that's basically the bottom line.
I'm just hoping that it's competitive for at least a couple quarters, Jude.
That's exactly what I'm hoping for too. This is the same sentiment as the Thunder game, except this is like there's
We
like
don't
way
have
less hope. Yeah.
we don't have our best player.
But if they could, a single digit loss would be immaculate.
Oh, it'd be so nice. It'd be so nice. Just chef's kiss.
No. Okay, actually what I want from tonight's game is just a solid game from Dom Barlo.
I think that's enough to ask for. And I would like a solid game from our young backcourt of the future, Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We see y'all in the comments, but we're going to go ahead and wrap this up because
Will you show Mike Ingles' comments real quick?
Yes.
Especially the top one.
That one, or the league is stacked?
They're both good, but the league is stacked is pretty funny.
Okay. League is stacked. Other years, Pistons are a playoff team. Okay.
Facts.
That's big facts. And then Jude, Ethan's got bits for the closet door. Do you?
I do. I do have bits. If you need, what kind of bit do you want? We're going to have a full offering.
I don't know.
What kind of screws you got in there?
I don't know.
We'll do a video where we just analyze the screws in your closet, and then I'll come over and I'll make sure we fix that door for you.
Okay. You're going to drive down?
Absolutely. Drive with my drive bits and drive the screw. Never mind. That was way too much complicated. For the record, I work for a screw company. For anyone that's confused, in the fastener company, excuse me, and building materials.
I try to cover it with my head as best as possible.
No, you do a good job. You do a good job.
But we're going to wrap this one up at about 30 minutes at Ethan's request. I don't mean that in like blame Ethan. I just mean that as in that's our reasoning.
Yep. I got to work dinner.
Any final thoughts, Ethan?
No, sir. I think we pretty much covered it all. And City Sissoko will not be playing tonight.
Yes. Okay. I'm actually glad you brought that up because y'all go check out the poster that CD had yesterday for the Austin Spurs. He also had a solid outing overall, 18 points, 4 rebounds. I believe might have had 4 assists there, but I could be wrong. But regardless, solid game from CD Sissoko down in Austin. And I'm glad he's getting reps because it doesn't unfortunately seem like we're going to give him to him. Because as Eric says here in the comments, is it too late to buy out Shetty for Sissoko playing? And I don't think that they're going to do that to Shetty. I think they're going to let Shetty play, and it's because CD is literally still 19. So
Exactly.
And a rookie. Throw him in the G League. He's going to be on the team next year anyway.
For sure.
Alrighty, y'all. We appreciate you guys hanging out in the comments, especially Michael's last two that he just put up there. But if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button below. And if you want to stay updated with everything SSPN, like if we have a late time change like we did today, follow us on Twitter at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. Love y'all. Go Spurs, go. Enjoy the game tonight.